How's it going, people? Just going to set that there actually. Can you hear me alright? Hold on a wee second here. How's it going, everybody? Can you hear me okay? Sound alright? How's it going? How's it going? A little low. Oh, shift, come on. Go. Go. Right, what I'll do is I'll stick this. I just don't want it interfering with what can be seen here on my wee table. Right, so some are saying you can and some are saying you can. Now, wait a minute, right? Is that alright? I'll just remember to speak loud, okay? So, let me just get myself together. I'm running a wee bit late. I've got a family shenanigans going on right now with one of my relatives, so anyway, I want to just go on with this because, you know, I said this before to people, before I get into any of this, you know, I'm going to just quickly go over a couple of things that I went over in the last video. Now, some people, you know, I've pointed at this before, but it doesn't matter, you know, how ridiculous things may seem to people. You can't let that get in the road of your investigation. If my thought patterns take me in a particular avenue, I have to pursue that avenue and I have to represent it honestly. So I'm going to show why these notions or why these postulations are not as far out of the box as you think they are. Okay, so again, I'm not making any definite claims to any of this. I'm just going to look in and, you know, tear apart my reality and see what it points to. So I said this before in regards to some of these ideas and the propaganda. Again, you don't listen to me, you don't listen to propaganda. If people are poo-pooing, you know, information or possibilities about your reality, don't listen to the propaganda. It's up to you to go and properly investigate. Now, I went back in the chat box the other night and somebody was asking me, how did I come to these things? Well, I came to these things through my own reasoning. I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm not just one of these people that has an idea or a belief system and I hear a wee bit of information that fits my wee narrative and that's it, that's all I need to know. I'm constantly looking and trying to find out something new or you know, whatever, get back over what I thought I knew and make sure that I'm understanding what it is I thought I understood in the first place. So this is an exercise for me just to get back over quickly again what I done the last time and then to take it a few steps forward. Okay, so we're going to have a wee look at things. How you all doing, people? FPV Angel, Tony T, Boris Chop, Sandy, TP in a tree, Eye Level Awakening, Hazmat, Tony T, One Conscious, Emerald Rider, Zoo Scott, Brandon Cook, Casimiras, how he's doing? Nicholas, Flat Enough RC, Waking the Masses, Celtic 67. Well, this is at Celtic 67. If someone makes a claim, they should be able to expose their beliefs to rigorous attempts of refutation and back their claim up with tangible substance and practical demonstration. Well, that's exactly what I intend on doing right now. And again, I'm actively looking for people to engage in this type of discussion. It's not a personal thing. I'm merely questioning my objective reality and trying to make sense and find out exactly what's going on. So I encourage anybody to get involved in this. I'm not interested in idiot morons anymore. I'm not going to be bothered tittle-tattle with any of these creepy clowns. I'm not interested in them unless they can come to the table with an adult attitude and a willingness to offer up some intellectual honesty so that we can lay things on the table and see what's what. So I'm not interested in any of these gimps or this name calling and all that. I'm going to keep saying gimps and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But that's not a refutation of any of the points that they're trying to offer, you know. Gimps is just the behaviour that I see continually when these people don't display intellectual honesty and they continually come back with the same old crap. When that just tells me that they're zealots, you know, they're following a particular dogma and they don't want to let it go. Well, I'm not interested in that. As anybody that knows me, I believed I lived on a globe for the majority of my life. I blindly no believed, but never paid much attention to the physics that they were supposedly professing It's not until you start digging into it yourself that you start to realise what actual physics is, and where these people are wandering off into concept land and abstract notions and fantasy. So I'm no one for that. I can only look at the mechanics of my reality and try and deduce from that the possibilities of what's going on in the bigger picture. I'm not going to start bringing in fantasy just to suit a wee particular bias or narrative or agenda that I'm committed to, okay? Because the only thing I'm committed to is trying to establish the objective facts, and that's it. So, Bob question, weight is force. Filters flying up gyroscopic process to show it. They don't. Good question, the hypothesis though. Weight is force. What gives something weight though? Bob, I'll get to this. So I'm going to get the paper up and we'll have a look at what gives something weight. The same as what gives something direction. You need something to resist it. You need something pressing against it and accelerating against it to give it weight and to give it direction. I'm going to get into it. So you can have a look at it for yourself. Again, I'm not making any solid commitments and claims to anything. I'm just going to see where this process leads me to. There could be other factors that we just don't know about yet. Again, you know, we have to keep open. We don't know everything. So we have to try and endeavour to understand as much as we can and have a progression of understanding. So I'm not scared to go here. And again, these ideas that I'm going to offer up this evening have been offered before. Now, I poo-pooed it because, like everybody else, I'm fallible. I succumbed to propaganda and had an ignorant attitude without properly understanding why these people would come to the conclusions they come to. But as I stumble on it on my own processes, I start to align and I start to see why people would come up with the postulations that they come up with. But we'll get to that. I'm just going to enjoy my tea here quick, finish my smoke, and then I'm going to get right into it. Again, I'm not interested in these clowns, this circus that goes on with this false dichotomy bullshit. It's about objectivity, and each and every one of you, it's up to you to come to the table using your own reasoning and offer up what you've discovered. You know, you can falsify, you can verify anything that I'm going to offer you here, and I want to hear about it. I'm not here just saying, I'm right and I've got all the answers and therefore nothing you can say. So come and let me see what you've got. Right, before I get into any of these clips, I'm just going to readdress a couple of things quick. So, let me just see here. Right. So, firstly, I'm just going to address a couple of quick comments that came through. This was from a guy called Zach Taylor. What you smoking? I'd like to see you move those pliers with just your index finger, even in a fixed position where it would take a minimum effort to pull with your one finger, and I would be convinced. Even a 1/8 of an inch, no glue or anything, because then the glue pulls on your finger and the handle with equal pressure. Are you dyslexic? No, when you glue your finger to anything, you now become part of that mass. So if I glue my finger to a door handle and I'm taking the door inwards towards myself, that you would denote as pull, the physics and the mechanical motions of my body are pushing to create a tension. That push would then create a motion in the door that you would denote as pull, but the mechanics is what we're interested in. My finger then becomes one with the door, the handle and the door. Okay, but the mechanics to make it move is exactly the same. So this very same guy, hang on a wee second. So this is always a classic. No such thing as pulling, question mark, but the sprocket is pulling the chain. This is where these people don't understand that just because the tension of the chain and the chain is behind the initial chain, they're going to call it pulling, but the mechanics, again, as I'm just going to show you in a wee second, are exactly the same. Top chain going to sprocket with pedals is tension, and the chain going to the back sprocket turning the rear tyre is loose, and some bikes even have tensioners, blah blah, right, okay, right. So this is a classic example of somebody who just doesn't understand. So let me just show a wee demonstration quick again. This is just going to be a quick demonstration for this chap. So I'm just going to do a section of a sprocket just to make the point. And we'll just use one tooth. Okay, one tooth. Now, there's your pedal. So we've got a linkage. From here to here. Okay, I'm just doing it like this, just so it's easier for them to understand it. So I'm going to turn it like this so they can see. The pressure is going to be applied here, downwards, on this lever that's connected to this lever, which is circular. It's going to take it in this direction. I'm doing this upside down just so it's easy for you to see it. So as you apply that pressure here, this tooth comes into contact with the inner surface of the linkage here. So you're now having a pressure applied in this direction. So you're pushing here, the tooth comes round, it presses against the inner section of your linkage here, pushing it in this direction. The tension is taken up along here. Now the first part of this that comes into contact here is going to be here. Okay, because the motion's being taken up on the chain. The rear of this linkage here is going to come into contact with this side of this tooth. Okay, and it's going to push against it in order to give this the same direction. Okay, it's very simple. I wish people would stop being so fucking lazy and actually have a look at these things for themselves. It's no difficult to break it apart and understand what's actually going on. Simple. Pressure applied, motion created, that comes into contact in the inner surface of the linkage, pushing against it, tension is taken up. The rear section of this link comes into contact with the rear part of the tooth on your lever. Now the pressure's been applied here, pushing it in sequence with this one. So just because you're here in the middle, or you're here actually, and this is behind you, you're going to say you're pulling it, but the mechanics is there for you to see. You're pressing against it, creating a motion. Simple. Okay, so we understand that in order for motion to be created, you need a force. Okay, so I'm going to go back again to the other evening. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it upside down for the benefit of you, okay? So just, you know, bear with me. This is going to be a three-dimensional object, okay? And this here, you need to consider this as the infinite void of space. It can be an infinite medium or whatever. It could be water if you want. It's infinite. It's an infinite void. We'll go with the heliocentrics claim of an infinite void. Okay. So as I said to you, now you ask the question, okay, well, this object of mass in the void, where's it going to get direction and where is it going to get weight? You need a force coming into contact with it. Okay? So that force for me would be, obviously, we need motion, we need applied pressure. This is the mechanics of your reality. So something has to come into contact with it. We'll say it comes in this direction. We'll say it's a square. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter what it is. We're not talking about that right now, about what the actual cause is. We're talking about the mechanics of motion, right? And taking it from the heliocentric claims, right? So we then have this accelerating. Say it's gone 9.8 meters per second squared, if you like. It then comes into contact with this and accelerates it in the same direction. So now this has acceleration. Now it has a direction, because that is where that came into contact with it, and it's now accelerating against it, putting it into motion. So we now have a reference point of down, because we can pinpoint where the acceleration is coming from. We also have up, which is just the opposite. Now we have the perpendicular, we have the horizontal. Now this object has direction. Now this object has weight, because if it's in an infinite void and it has mass, it has no weight. How is it going to get weight? It needs something else coming into contact with it and pressing against it. Now that's going to offer up resistance, which you would class as weight. With me so far? Yeah, well, they talk about force and they talk about objects in motion. Okay? The force, motion, to be created, it's a fundamental fact. A pressure has to be applied. You have to push something. If you're in an infinite void and you have a mass with no direction and no weight, you need something coming into contact with it to put it into motion. Then you've got direction. Then you have weight. Are we all with me so far? We'll get to the density stuff. So, let's go again. Same scenario. We're back to the infinite void. You're going to make this a three-dimensional object, okay? Wait. Nothing in here. Nothing in here. But now what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to inject gas into it. I'm going to have air in here. So we'll do the conspiracy cats thing. We've got air. We can have liquid. We can have whatever we want in here. Right, remember, you're looking at this. I'm looking at it upside down. Okay? Everybody okay? So, again, the object has no weight. The object has no direction. Neither does its contents right now. The air that I have in there. I've got a mixture of air. And I can have liquid in there if I want as well. But it has no direction. It has no weight to it. So again, I need to apply an accelerating force to come into contact with it. Pushing against it. Okay, we'll say 9.8 meters per second squared. Now it has that direction. Right? Now it has weight because of whatever's pushing against it to put it into motion. Now as it goes into motion, what's going to happen to all this stuff in here? This is going to accelerate forward and it's going to compress the gas to here. And it's going to compress the liquid to here, to the base, the perpendicular to where the contact of force or pressure is. With me so far? So let's just have a wee look at a couple of things here. never mind all that shite. So let me just find something here. Bear with me. Get to him in a minute. Was it this one? Just bear with me, I find the thing I'm looking for here. Hold on. What the fuck is it? Right, here. So let's just have a wee watch at this just quick.
Do something pretty interesting. Check this out. I've got a pendulum suspended from the top of our family van, and we're just going to drive forward. We're going to accelerate. So if we're going that way, which direction do you think this pendulum should go? What do you think? 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes.
Which way is it going?
My way.
So right away here in this scenario, you can see that the suspended object, the pendulum, the acceleration, the direction of the motion dictates where down's going to be to it. Okay?
That's right. It's because I'm accelerating, right? Does that make sense to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
very good. I was hoping it would make sense. So we're going to change it up just a little bit. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this pendulum with a balloon. We should see the same thing, right? Let me cut this off. So what we're going to do is we're going to accelerate that way. So we have the mass of the balloon and the acceleration, so that should net in a force, and we'll have to react with this string, right? You guys ready?
Yes, sir.
3, 2, 1, go.
Go.
Wait a second. What just happened? I don't know, what happens when I stop? The balloon goes backwards when I stop. What's happening?
It's going the same.
3, 2, 1, go. There it is, it's coming right at me. Why is it doing that? Do you want to know?
Yeah.
I brought something to show you. You remember I told you I was going to bring this jar earlier? Remember that? So it's like this. Imagine this entire van is just like this jar. And all the air inside this van is just like the water in the jar. Does that make sense? So let's imagine that the balloon is this bubble on top. Because the helium in the balloon is lighter than air, right? So that causes it to do what?
Go up.
Go up, that's right. So if I've got this air that's just like it, what happens if I move the jar that way? All that water sloshes to the back. And when that water sloshes back this way, which direction
The denser medium.
does the bubble go? You see that? So the air bubble moves in the direction of acceleration. Does that make sense? I know you're 5, but I think you can get this. Okay, so I've got my seatbelt on. If I drive forward real fast right now, which direction is the balloon going to go?
Forward.
Why will it go forward?
Because all the air is splashing back.
That's right. Very good. Watch this. Whoosh. Look at that. You see that? So you know what that means, don't you?
Yeah.
That means you have more air to breathe than Daddy does when I'm going fast.
So, anybody can recreate that for themselves. So let's try and think about what I've just been saying here. Okay. So again, as I was saying, in the void, we have an object, a three-dimensional object, with an empty space in between, and we have air and we have liquid and we have all sorts in here. So the denser medium is going to go to the point of acceleration before the less dense stuff. The air is going to compress so that within a set band you're going to have a more compact, denser portion of compressed air, only because you have an accelerating force to give it that direction. Which is why when you see the situation with the car and the balloon, you just use a cube, okay, and the cube's going to go in that direction. And you've got your wee balloon in here. The reason the helium balloon moves forward is because the other air surrounding it is being compressed as this accelerates in that direction. That air is compressing to this back portion here. where it would be more dense. With me so far? I need a smoke. So I'm just going to take my time getting through this. I'm not under any rush to satisfy anybody. I'm just going to keep pottering through this. Never mind Channel Q, it's just another fucking troll. It doesn't want people to understand or question their reality. Just because that moron thinks it's got a grasp on fucking pulling forces and all that. There's no such thing as a fucking pulling force. We'll get to that though. Just a break until I roll it. You can lol all you want, hen. Away you go and fucking demonstrate a pulling force. Hurry up. You can't, because it's fucking impossible. So away you go, continuing your wee idiotic debates and thinking you've got a grasp on your reality while the rest of us try and get on with it. You're just another willfully ignorant moron. That's up, Pale Horse FPV. It's the shift, the accelerating force is going to shift. That's why when you go to the fairground and you don't have something that's going in a linear straight line fashion, right? If you get something that's doing a curve, right? So like, I don't know, they'll always tell the bigger person to sit in the outward position or wherever the force is going to be shifted to. Because obviously the heavier you are, the denser, the more mass you are, you're going to crush the smaller, less dense mass that's on the inside of you. So, anywho, to make this point again, let me just have a wee look at something else here. Was it this one? So, a very different type of scenario, the same principle. Hang on, if I share this. We'll see this in a wee second. You can test this for yourself as well. You can also test it on an incline plane, which I'll demonstrate very shortly. So we've got a vessel, and we've got water in it, and obviously we know that the water is parallel to the earth, okay, a horizontal plane. Now, as we start to accelerate in a linear fashion, we'll go in this direction. What happens to the water? Just as I've just described in the void with the scenario and direction, the accelerating force, okay, causes what to happen? That now wants to shift to be parallel with the back portion. And if you can accelerate it fast enough, that's exactly what you're going to get, which is why the water will now do this. Okay, as it starts to shift around in a line. I've not got all the vocabulary, but I know what's going on here, right? So you just need to bear with me with the vocabulary, right? But that's not what's important. It's understanding the physicality. So as we accelerate linear, we get this happening, and it wants to shift round and be parallel with the back wall, because that's now up and that's now down. Okay. Let's just have a wee look. Where is it?
It decelerates at 5 meters per second. So if you think of that, so it's bunching up at the height.
So you'll get the opposite. Obviously, you're accelerating in this direction, and you're getting this happening. Now, as you brake, it's going to go the opposite way. Well, let's look for the one with the incline plane. I don't need this one right now. So here we can see the very same thing is going to happen. Alright, so at rest we know that the base here is the level, okay, the straight line at the bottom here. This angle, this incline that the cart's on, the shape of the cart doesn't matter, the shape of the cart really. The water line is always going to be parallel with the earth, okay, that's just what happens. So probably because for me the earth is accelerating in that direction. This upwards thing, I'll talk about that in a wee minute, okay. So even on an incline, they're talking here about 4 meters per second. They're talking about an accelerating, going up the incline, okay. Now, look again. Look at where it's starting to shift. It wants to shift so that its new direction of up is in that direction the acceleration force is pushing it into. Okay, so if you pushed it with enough acceleration, the water would shift round and be parallel with the back wall, perpendicular to the point of acceleration. I think that's the right word, perpendicular, and don't quote me on that. As I say, I'm not the best with the lingo, but I know what it is I'm trying to say, and I'm sure many other people do. Okay, so you can see these things in play.
And horizontal acceleration, because it's going up a slope, there is a component in the x direction, or in our case y direction, and in the z direction.
Yeah. You can see it here. So you can see again in this is exactly what happens if we have a steady standing body of water. We know it's level and it's parallel with the base of the container. Okay, so you get two parallel lines, but as you accelerate it horizontally, again, you can see this shift starting to happen. Eventually, if you accelerated it fast enough, the whole lot would shift to this back wall. So it's the acceleration that denotes direction. Okay? And again, in this scenario, if we sealed that and we had different air, different gases, different particles, different densities in here, as that accelerates, they would all separate into their relative density. And for me, that's what's given things the relative density, because there's an accelerating force pushing against them. Not a pulling force, because it doesn't exist. Again, this is where the heliocentrists have hijacked this notion of 9.8 meters per second squared as a pulling force. Reverse it. Let's see here. Don't need that one. I think I need any of these right now. Just hold on a wee minute. Consider a uniformly horizontally accelerated tube of water. I know that the fluid experiences a pseudo force in addition to its own weight so that it reaches equilibrium in the below diagram. Why can't water also exert a force like this so it can be in equilibrium horizontally? Oh, blah. The surface of the liquid is going to be perpendicular to the total acceleration, including gravity. If you have a cup sitting on a table, then only acceleration is gravity. See, they're talking about acceleration, right, in this gravity thing. But there's no such thing as a pulling that can achieve acceleration or motion. So the only thing that it can be is that the earth is in motion, but it's pushing against us. So let's just come out of this soon. I'm going to come back to it, but I want to just talk about something else quick. Right. So when I use the example of this I'll do it like this for you. I'll use the example of this. Remember, you're looking at this properly. I'm looking at it upside down. Shit, where was I going with that now? Forget. Aye, sorry. Right. So when this stuff's talked about and they say the Earth's accelerating upwards, right? But that would be to us, we stick peoples in here. Right? So to us, if this was, the postulation was correct, the Earth's moving upwards in relation to us. But as me as an outside observer from a different reference frame, that force could be applied there and it could be going linear to me. So as I'm looking at it, you know, I could see it going that way. But to you, the point of acceleration is always your reference for down and your reference for up and the horizontal. But to outside that reference frame, you could be going in any direction to me as an outside observer. I could even be doing a slight like that, as long as I've got the constant acceleration, the momentum, something accelerating, constantly pushing against it. We could have slight arcs. So when they say this moving upwards, that's only relative to us as the people who are on it or within it. So even when you look at this, as I say, this makes sense then that things are compressing. Okay, why water's always horizontal and plane on the perpendicular at the point of acceleration. If I put a lump of stuff here, you know, like jelly or slime or something, eventually it flies flat like a pancake because there's a constant pressure being applied to it, pushing it. So the reason you end up at this is because this notion of pull is totally preposterous. Totally and utterly preposterous. Let me just hear. Must have brought my what I'm showing. I don't know what I'm showing. Hold on, I went too far up. Aye. So, as I was saying, for anybody that missed it, if you couldn't see it, you know what I'm saying is this up, this notion that the Earth's moving upwards in relation to the people on it or within it is only within that reference frame, because your point of acceleration denotes you're down and you're up. Okay. But if you're outside the reference frame, looking at it, it could be going in any direction, as long as the accelerating force is still there and still applied. Again, go back to this, and we understand this. Now, what's going to happen if I put this into a spin? What's going to happen with all this here if I start putting that into a spin, as well as making it go in that fashion? It's going to knock it out of equilibrium. You can't just say things are spinning, things are in motion, and things are spinning and things are being pulled to the centre. That's not going to work. It's not around now. Right. You can't just now start claiming that things have got acceleration and motion being created by something pulling them. Right? if this was a body of water and I created a whirlpool, if I had a feather sitting here and I had a feather sitting here and I started a whirlpool, right, so that we get an inward vortex, then these things would move in there and start to spiral in to the vortex, right? But that's not what they're claiming. They're claiming motion and acceleration is being created by pulling. So what they're now trying to say is that this is why they come up with all this abstract bullshit, warping and bending of space-time and all this jobby gobbledygook. They're trying to say that there's an imaginary force in here, right, that somehow can grab onto this without any physicality, can now grab onto an object without any physical interaction, right, to give it acceleration or direction. They're saying there's an imaginary, non-geometric, non-entity here at the centre of the circle that somehow lassos magical ropes round it like that and then winds it in. That's just nonsense. Well, the rotation wouldn't work. Again, you've got to go back, you've got to strip their nonsense back. You've got to go back to a void. Okay, alright, so let's try it again. Let's try their nonsense, right? We'll put an object in the void. Here's the object. Right. Now we want to give the object, this is a globe. Globular Earth, right? We need the globular Earth to now have direction. You can't just invoke shit and say it's pulling like a magnet, but it's not a magnet. Nah. Right? That's not what they're claiming. So how does this get direction? Okay, right, let's see. Well, we bring in something that gives it an accelerating, something with an accelerative force, right? So it's now going in that direction. Okay, so now there's up. Right, and there's a perpendicular. Now we're going to put it into a spin. Now where's the direction going to be with this fucker spinning? Whatever channel Q, all you heliocentrics fucking draw circles to represent your globe. And I'm just using it as a visual representation to highlight the utter stupidity. How is this going to work? The only reason that they think they can get it to work is by invoking this shit that pulls things. Get an object up here. You can't accelerate an object without something pressing against it. So you can't have this here with invisible lassos, woo, wrapped around it and winding it in. Because that's exactly what you would need. Oh, you're no clever at all. You're very silly. A magnet pulls objects all the time, does it? So you know what magnetism is. You're up for a Nobel Prize and all that. You're going to get some serious accolades because you know how magnetism works. You can't use magnetism because you're not claiming it's magnetic attractions and all that stuff. You're calling it gravity. You're claiming there's a force known as gravity that's created by a mass, right? That can cause things to accelerate and have direction. That's no, I mean, you can't demonstrate that again in reality. You cannot demonstrate this notion anywhere in reality whatsoever. You can just keep saying gravity. How does it debunk it? DQ, you can't just say that. How does it debunk it? How does dust debunk that? Let's hear it. DQ. Dandelion seeds somehow debunk this. Again, getting back to what I showed you earlier. Where is it? As I was shown in the example of the accelerating car and why the balloon goes to the front of the car as it accelerates when the pendulum goes to the back, because the pendulum has more density to it. Okay? That's where density comes into play, because of an accelerating force that gives things direction and gives weight to stuff. Okay? So in the case of the car, with a balloon going in this direction and its acceleration, the air within here compresses to the back. So you've now got a dense portion of air. The helium's lighter, so the helium gets propelled forward. So you're saying with your dust particles and your dandelion fucking seeds and whatever else, they're all now subject to their density. And you can have the density because you've got an accelerating force that's given direction and creating density. They can't get away with this gravity nonsense anymore. They can't try to use gravity as an accelerating force. It flies in the face of mechanical, objective reality. I'm going to keep repeating this. Acceleration and motion can only be achieved by applying a pressure onto an object. You feel this if you're in a fast car or on an aeroplane. As the acceleration starts to happen, you start to feel your weight shifting towards the opposite of where it's going. Your weight's going to shift to the back. Now if that accelerated fast enough, that would now be your reference of down, and that would be your reference of up. Accelerate the car upwards, the same thing happens, supercurve. That's what I've just been showing you. You understand that the car accelerating in that direction compresses the air here, which then pushes, the density of that is then forced to go forwards. So it doesn't matter what direction. If you want to go up the way, it's the same thing. So here we have another container. There we've got a wee balloon full of helium in it, right? And this is all air. But right now it doesn't have any acceleration, doesn't have any weight to it. It's just in the void, suspended in the void. Now if I bring the accelerating point here, as you say, upwards, as that gets shifted upwards, all this air in here is going to compress and become more dense, and it's going to force the lighter contained air within that helium balloon to come in that direction, just the same as in the car. Accelerate the car upwards, the rate doubles. No until once you've reached uniform motion. If there's a continual increase of acceleration, you're going to get an increase in apparent weight. Just like in an elevator, stand in an elevator, as the elevator starts to move, you'll get an initial increase in your weight, and then it's going to reach uniform motion, and your weight's going to come back to its equilibrium again. You're on the earth. The earth is in uniform motion. That's why when you're a child, you're splayed out on your back the majority of the time. And you have to build a skeletal frame and muscle fibre so that you can then start to overcome the force of the accelerating coming at you. No, you're saying downwards. How do you know it's downwards? It can't be downwards. There's no an accelerating pulling force. The acceleration's coming up at you. You're on the earth, which is accelerating at 9.8 metres per second squared. It's the earth that's accelerating. That's how you're getting weight. Are you daft? Are you going to say, oh, it's gravity? And it's just the dense material that's resisting you from going to the centre of my non-geometric, non-entity force, and that's what's giving you your weight. That's total and utter bullshit. Object in three-dimensional space has mass, has a density to it. It has no weight. The only way to give it weight is to bring something into contact with it and push against it. Now you've got resistance. Now you've got a point of weight. Horizontal and vertical don't work the same. It must be different. I don't know what you're talking about. You'll need to give me practical examples to reference so that we can have a look at it. No, it doesn't fit it dabbing good. But the density thing in the helium balloon fits this. As just demonstrated, anybody can try that with their car. Get a helium balloon, put it in your car. As you accelerate the car, it's going to go in the direction of you, what you're moving in, because the air's going to compress to the back wall of the car. It now has more density, which is going to shift that forward. Exactly, Phuket word, gravity, unicorn motion. We're just making it all up. It's to disguise, for me, it's to disguise the fact of what's actually going on and why there was so much propaganda surrounding this here of this, you know, upwards acceleration. Again, upwards, I'm using upwards in regards to, you know, relative to us being a part of it. Out with the reference frame of the earth, it could be gone in any direction. What super curve? You need to be specific. What are you talking about? I've already mentioned that accelerating car sorts gravity. Change the axis and the effect doubles or cancels. What? What do you mean? Everything's already here on the earth. That's why if I'm here and I shoot something in that direction, right? If I don't keep giving it an injection of more force, it's going to start to peter off and it's going to start to, what you'll say, fall towards Earth. But is it? Is it just because it now doesn't have enough momentum, enough force behind it, that it's slowing and the Earth's coming back into contact with it again? You're no weightless, you're still falling. You're still falling. The aircraft that you're in doing that is more dense than you are. And again, you can see it in that scenario. If it keeps accelerating, eventually you're going to hit the back wall of the aircraft that you're saying is coming down the way, or falling. Emerald Rider, what I'm showing here is I'm going through the aspects and the mechanics of reality. What we understand and know is, you know, how to get an object in motion. You need a force. That force has to be an acceleration. It has to press on it in order to put it into motion. So when we're in the void taking their claim, and I put an object in here, it has no direction. It has no weight to it. It can be made of stuff, it could be made of whatever. But until I've got some accelerating force on it, I'm not going to give it any direction. I'm not going to get a density gradient. So when we look at objective reality and we look at the mechanics of our reality, until you come back into contact with the earth again, Supercurve, because now you've got something to resist both you and the weight that you're holding. See, this cannot just be flipped. The heliocentric wants to say pulling you inwards. You can just flip it and say, well, the earth's accelerating at 9.8 metres per second squared. Anybody can just make that claim. This one has more merit to it because it backs up the laws of motion and the mechanics of our actual reality. This can be demonstrated. Pulling forces and pulling stuff to the centre of objects cannot be demonstrated in any way, shape or form. You cannot demonstrate acceleration or a force known as pull. So that's a fact. So we know that acceleration and motion is created by a force of acceleration. So we have direction, things have density. What does that suggest to you? Oh, just throw all the mechanics of reality out, throw it all out again, because the heliocentrics just get a buy. They can just invoke pulling forces and think they can get away with it. No, I don't fucking think so. That's not how it works with me. Of course it does, one conscience. But remember, up's only up relative to us. If you're outside the earth, the reference frame of the earth, it could be gone in any direction. As long as you've got that uniform acceleration, push, keeping it in motion. So, I can assert this based on demonstrable, practical demonstrations. Now I ask the heliocentrists, demonstrate motion, acceleration, weight being given to any object and having a direction by way of pulling it. And I mean pull as a force, not a descriptor of the motion, the direction of the motion. As a force, demonstrate pull. And then we'll have a look at what's merited in your claims. Because so far, what I can see is that it's total bullshit and flies in the face of mechanical reality. Just keep saying magnets all you like, Supercurve. You're no professing gravity's a magnet, are you? Just tell me right now, are you professing that gravity's a magnet? And do you know what a magnet actually is? How it's created and what the physicality is of it? Aye, electromagnetic lift a car, and it's still the same thing. The electromagnetics is a force, right, that comes into contact with it and pushes against it. Shut up, Supercurve. You're a clown, son. Absolute spastic. Sorry, Flat Enough, I'm missing what you're saying. I'm going to stop giving the clown's attention and see what that is you're saying. The surface of a spinning sphere performing a helical motion within absolute space. The vector's direction would change all the time. Exactly, mate. Exactly. As I was pointing at, we understand these principles. Now put it into a spin and it all just goes to fuck. That's why they need to invoke magic. Nonsensical mathematical drivel. To combat actual mechanical physical reality. To make it fit their wee narrative. Don't let them drag you into this. You need to take it right back to their initial claims. Their initial claim is that we've got a void, right? We've got this big bang shite. So this big bang, the way they show you it, it's like a fucking tube that comes from one point, right? Like this. So they're trying to invoke, you know, a limitation to it, but then they're going to tell you it's an infinite void. But we'll just go with that bullshit. So they're saying everything spews out here, and you've got wee objects all flying out for this big bang. Right, stuff all flying out the way. So, right there and then, cool. So we've got a sort of direction, right, coming through these points, if you like, right. But as soon as you start to spin these, right, you've now lost your point of direction. Nothing would stick to this in any way, shape or form. It's just all nonsense. Of course it makes sense, Goalie and Flyer. They've just interchanged the accelerating force as we know it. Objects in motion require an accelerating force. That gives them their motion, it gives it direction, and it sorts out the density layers. Okay? They've just flipped that about. Says we're in a spin, we're on a sphere that's spinning, and there's a point at the centre that's not a geometric stuff. It's just a nonsense abstract notion that somehow lassoes itself around stuff and pulls it inwards. And they're calling that gravity accelerates things at 9.8 metres per second squared. No, show me anywhere in practical reality where you can accelerate something with a pull, the force known as pull. As they're giving you a say it, you'll never find it. It doesn't exist. Let me see what else is on here, just to have a wee look-see. Hold on. So with this guy, I was going to give this guy a ribbon, but to be honest with you, I'm just past this shite now. I can't be arsed with these people. They can waffle shite all they fucking like. I'm only interested in progress.
If you're a regular person and you haven't seen my other two Flat Earth videos, I'll be begin. Number one extremely problematic side effect of taking the globe and flattening it out into a plane is that gravity makes no sense, and
No, your gravity doesn't make any sense, mate. The gravity, even that, I'm not going to say, make any claims to this pizza model crap, but that being accelerated in that direction up the way to our reference point right now would give me a direction of down. It would give things weight. Okay, it would sort the densities. Things would shift into the density layers. Okay, that's bullshit here. Doesn't make any sense with pulling inwards like a magnet, but it's not a magnet. It's just an abstract notion that I need to fit this cartoon sphere.
There is no reason for things to fall to the ground.
I've just gave you a reason. Objects in free fall accelerate at 9.8 metres per second squared. Really?
Objects accelerate towards the ground at 9.8 meters
Or I can just interchange what you said and say the ground accelerates towards the objects at 9.8 metres per second squared.
per second squared. That's an indisputable fact. And it is also an indisputable fact that any acceleration requires a force to produce it.
Exactly. Any acceleration requires a force to produce it. Now that force in everybody's reality that can be demonstrated 100% of the time is applied pressure, a push.
This is how cars drive, planes fly, people walk, cats jump.
So this is where guys like him are missing, right? He understands the physicality of what's required to make you walk. You know, you need to push against something. The whole aspect, the mechanical aspects of your being is push. Your feet come into contact with the earth, you get friction, and you press against it to propel yourself in whatever direction you want. Same is true for a car. Okay? Every aspect of the mechanics of a vehicle is push, pressure. That all translates along the drive shafts to the levers that are known as the wheels. The wheels have a rubber. They come into contact with the surface of the earth. They grip in and they propel themselves forward by pushing against the surface of the earth. Same is true with the aircraft. The aircraft requires a push which comes out the back. It's a compressed air that pushes against the air at the back, okay, propelling the aircraft forward. Then it gets lift through the wings. It tilts its nose up and it aquaplanes, the same as a boat. Right? Same as a cat. Same physical aspects as a human being in order to make motion happen. Okay? You need pressure to be applied. That's what gives things motion. None of this is pulling. None of it.
It's how literally all motion works. Even charlatans like the Globe Buster.
Yep. So, he knows that's what's required. But then, he's going to turn around and say, oh, gravity's a pulling force that I can't demonstrate, that flies in the face of mechanics, motion, acceleration. Again, they don't get a buy. They need to start addressing this because it's flawed. It's total and utter ridiculous garbage. Again, you can see what I was talking about here. Acceleration in that direction. Okay, so again, if we consider that being a void, and we accelerate in that direction, that then goes perpendicular to the point, okay, to the acceleration force. Keep accelerating that shifts round and it's going to become parallel with that. Again, same in the opposite direction. And it doesn't matter if you put that on an incline and accelerate it, you're going to get the same. It's going to shift to be perpendicular to the accelerating force. The surface of the liquid is going to be perpendicular to the total acceleration. Consider a tank originally at rest and containing some liquid. We know that the liquid at rest maintains its surface level as shown in figure 1a. Now let the tank move forward towards the right side with a uniform acceleration. And you can see what starts to happen. As the tank starts moving, we find that the liquid surface does not remain level anymore, but the liquid surface falls down on the front side and rises up on the back side of the tank as shown. Static pressure on the back side and the front side due to liquid are shown in figure 1. I'm still sharing this. think I need that one anymore. Well, we've seen that. So just to show you again, when he explains it.
All right, you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
He's going to accelerate that direction. The air in there is going to shift to the back and come into contact with the back walls of the containment, and it's going to compress. Okay, it's now more dense in the back section. This is lighter. It's not as dense. So it's going to be propelled forward by the shift.
3, 2, 1, go. Wait a second. What just happened?
So, here you can see it. So again, here's the object, we'll call it a helicopter. This is the void. There's nothing here. Right? Even there's air and everything here. What's going to give that mass, weight and direction is the base or the surface coming into contact with it, pushing against it. You know, and it's 9.8 meters per second squared, which gives it a set weight and direction. It now has a point of reference for down and a point of reference for up in the perpendicular. Can you see it? Now it can be, you know, it's just like they use in the uniform motion of being in a train or whatever. As that's moving upwards, you only need to go 1 mile an hour. If you can keep enough thrust or acceleration doing 1 mile an hour, you're going to stay above the surface of this. If you're doing a diagonal and you don't get enough force, eventually it's going to start to arc and come back. Well, that's what it looks like to you. But I can just assert that it's the Earth that's coming into contact with it, because it no longer has enough force and momentum to keep away from the Earth that's coming back to meet it again at 9.8 meters per second squared. So, you know, you can just change that aspect to what I'm saying. Who's right? What has more merit? What can be practically demonstrated? What I'm saying can be practically demonstrated. Theirs can't be. They don't get a buy. Acceleration, motion, by way of a force known as pull. Please demonstrate it to me. Don't wait to the comment. We can wait the comment section, but you better offer me a practical demonstration of a force known as pull. Challenge anybody to demonstrate to me a force known as pull that gives acceleration to anything and motion to anything. You can't do it. So, what has more merit? Again with the air and the compression part, it's colder. When it's colder it comes down, when it's hotter it'll go up, because its density is changing, just like the balloon with the accelerating car. Okay? If you change the density of that air or the gas that was inside that, you'd get a different effect. Just like you showed with the plumb bob. The plumb bob goes to the back because its density is greater than the compressed air that's being shoved to the back of the car. So it moves through it until it finds the point of contact that's going to resist it. Why it's necessary to travel 11 kilometers per second to escape the Earth's gravity? Bullshit. If you start less than 11 kilometres at ground level and don't get any further push, i.e. you slow down as you go up like a stone thrown into the air, you will fall to the ground again, or the ground will come and meet you. So they even accept it here. You need more push, because any motion requires push. Here.
Gravitational usage, but that is not technically correct because weight is the force that Earth is pulling down, or I should say, the force of gravity.
See, notice here, I don't know if this guy's, understands, because he just corrected himself. The force of gravity pulling.
Not technically correct because weight is the force that Earth is pulling down, or I should say, the force of gravity on my mass.
Now, exactly there as he just says, the force that's acting upon the mass, right, that gives it weight. Now again, I'm going to challenge every single person on this fucking earth right now to demonstrate to me or anybody a force that gives motion and acceleration to anything that's known as pull. There's your challenge, globe proponents. Away you go and let's see what you come up with. Let me just see if there was anything else. Yeah, I think that was it. Well, there was my wee sheet of paper there I was looking for there. That doesn't matter. Right. So as usual, I'm going to open up now, and I'm going to invite anybody to have this discussion with me, just so that it demonstrates that, again, we're only people who are questioning stuff, trying to make sense of reality. So if you're interested and you think you've got something to offer here, I'm going to make a smoke and I'm going to create a wee hangout and I'm going to post it in the chat box, and you can come in and you can let me know. I need feedback, people. I want to hear people's thoughts on it. This is what we need to be thinking about. Because in that scenario, you're removing the resistance. There's no density to resist there. In the vacuum thing, the Earth would still be accelerating towards them. Just as I say, it's like the car scenario with the car and the helium balloon. If you vac that out, right, and accelerated the car forward, there's not going to be a compression of air behind the balloon to propel it forward. It would do the same as the plumb bob done. It would move uniformly with the plumb bob towards the back of the vehicle, accelerating. They can't use magnetism anyway, beyond belief. They're not claiming it's magnets. We're no subject to magnets. A magnet doesn't make me go anywhere, or a tree, or anything. The majority of magnets are man-made. So do you understand, whoever it was that asked the question about the vacuum thing and why they would fall at the same rate? Because it's a vacuum. You're removing air out it. So there's no density layers there, there's no compression of air. In the scenario of the car, vac the car out so it's sealed properly. Take all the air out of it. Put your helium balloon in it, put your plumb bob in it, and they will both move towards the back. Rather than the first scenario, you see the helium balloon move to the front because the air's compressing. It's now more dense, it's more compact. The helium balloon's less dense, it gets shoved in the opposite direction. Take all that air out, the plumb bob and the helium balloon will go to the back of the car. I guarantee it. Right, let's get a wee hangout happening here. Hang on, yeah, put in a request for a wee cup of tea. Right. So, again, just to clarify, this is in regards to acceleration, motion, direction, and what would denote any of these things. And there's no such thing as pulling, like gives motion or acceleration. Bendy forces, aye. Link's been posted. Let me hear what you've got to say, people. Questions from anybody? Okay, it speaks at Disney. It's nonsense. Gravity. The way they talk about gravity. It flies in the face.
Oh, I'm in both hangouts at once.
For fuck's sake. Turn your mic down, for fuck's sake, man. Just about jumped out my skin there.
Hi, Del.
Aye,
How you doing, Del?
no bad.
You know, your audience wasn't really paying attention to your lesson. It was brilliant.
Aye. So
Yeah.
What have you got to offer in regards to it?
I wanted to ask you about this accelerating force you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
This force that accelerates water over a slant.
What are you talking about?
Wasn't that what your lesson was about?
One of the aspects of it. If you put a containment of water on a slant and accelerate it up the slant.
So you're saying water can't flow up a slant, but it can flow down a slant?
No, what are you talking about? It's nothing to do with the way the water flows. It's an acceleration of the container up the slant, up the incline. And what happens to the water as it accelerates up the incline?
What happens to it?
What do you mean what happens to it? It dips down at the front portion and slants to go towards the back wall.
Oh, so like it kind of mimics the slant?
No, it goes the opposite to the slant.
Oh, when you're pushing it up?
Yes.
No. And what do you think that means?
What do you mean, what do I think it means?
Well, why does the water do that?
It's how things act when they're put into motion, when there's an accelerating force behind them.
Yeah, but why does the water do that?
What do you mean, why does it do it? Because it's going perpendicular to the point of acceleration.
But how does it know that?
But it's no, what do you mean, how does it know? It's not a conscious entity, you moron. That's just how the substance behaves in regards to acceleration.
Yeah, but how does the water know which direction it's going in? Like what?
The acceleration gives it its point.
How to react.
It's the acceleration that gives it its point of reference. Are you daft? Have you ever sat in
Del,
a car? Have you ever?
on the side
Have you,
of,
have you ever
the
sat?
Flat
Shut up,
Earth
Tim. The
Society?
new Tim. I'm not talking to you right now. Don't butt in and be ignorant. Have you ever sat in
I
a
was just
car?
wondering if
Have you ever sat in a car that's accelerated? Q.
What's that?
Have you ever sat in a car or a vehicle that is accelerated?
Yeah.
What
As long as
happens-
it keeps,
what happens
like
to
if
your-
it's got cruise control on
what
and it's
happens
going
to your
like
weight?
60, I can't really feel
Listen,
it. But if we
fucko.
suddenly stop
Listen,
or
fucko.
turn the
If you're just in here
cruise
to act
control
like a
off,
fucking
then I can
moron,
tell that I'm moving.
if you're just in here to act like a moron, I'm just going to shut this hang out down. I'm going to give you one more fucking chance to be respectable and decent. Now, what happens to you in a car when it
Okay.
accelerates?
You're asking me what happens to a car when it
What
accelerates?
happens to you in the vehicle when the car accelerates?
I get pushed back towards
Exactly.
the seat, I suppose.
Exactly. So you understand how it works,
Well, yes.
right? So, have you got anything else to add?
Well, what about the acceleration is making me get pushed against the seat?
What do you mean? What's your question? You're just being vague and idiotic. If you're not capable
Well, you're the
of
one who
having this
said
type
something
of,
about an
you
accelerating
obviously not get the
force.
capacity to have this discussion. So why are you even here?
I have capacity to have this
Well,
conversation.
demonstrate it then, instead of acting like a fucking petulant child.
Am I acting like a child?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dal.
Very much so. Very immature.
But I just don't understand how the liquid knows which way up a ramp you're pushing or
It's
pulling.
not a
it.
conscious entity. It's not deciding
know,
that that's
that's
what's
why
going
I'm
to be.
having such a hard
It's the
time
effect of the accelerating force.
Figuring it out
It's
why
the,
the water would react.
it's the
why does
effect
the
of the
water have any
accelerating force.
reaction?
Did you see my demonstration about the void and what would give anything direction and give anything weight in a
void?
void? Did you see that part?
Hey, Del, there's a guy pulling clothes off a clothesline outside. You might want to ask him about push and pull.
You guys have got about 30 seconds before I just click you off.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Del, so are you going with the Flat Earth Society when they say that there's an upwards acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared?
Timmy, can you demonstrate a force known as pull given motion and acceleration to something?
No, I mean, this is a better explanation than most flat earthers have, but I did ask a question. Do you go with what they claimed?
What
the
I'm pointing at
upwards
is
neg-
what I'm pointing at is I can understand why they would end up here when you contemplate and you go through the process of understanding the mechanics of motion and acceleration. This is where you would end up.
Yeah, but wouldn't that mean at a certain point after like 10 years you'd be moving like 14 quadrillion miles an hour though?
No, because it doesn't have to be constantly moving. You would reach uniform motion. It doesn't
We
have to
feel
be.
it if it
It
stops
doesn't.
moving.
It
There
doesn't
wouldn't
have.
be an acceleration.
It doesn't have to be constantly accelerating, increasing its acceleration. You're in a void or you're in a medium that's infinite or whatever you want to postulate. You know, you've got a mass that has no direction and it has no weight to it. You bring something in at 9.8 meters per second squared that's got that constant uniform motion and it propels it forward. You from then have a downwards point of reference, you have an upward point of reference and you have the perpendicular to it. Simple.
Yeah, so how fast is the Earth moving upwards?
What do you mean?
Is it 9.8 meters per second squared?
Is that how fast the pull of gravity is?
Uh-oh. Del,
On
you don't
Earth?
know?
What? No, I do know. What I'm saying is what's 9.8 meters per second squared in reference to?
I'm asking the question, is that what you believe now?
Would I believe what? That the Earth's in motion?
That there's an acceleration upwards?
I
at
don't believe
9.8
anything. What
meters per
I'm
second
stripping
squared?
apart. What I'm stripping apart is taking everything right back to the initial beginnings. Okay, so I'm taking the heliocentric model. I'm taking the infinite void, the emptiness of space, three-dimensional space. Okay. Now I'm asking the questions. If we have a mass in here, what's going to give it direction and what's going to give it weight?
So,
That's my
I mean,
question.
really, in your world, though, you're now saying that we've reached a velocity and we're not accelerating anymore. Why are you talking about an acceleration then, downwards?
What do you mean? That acceleration downwards? What are you talking about? Who said downwards?
Well, there is an acceleration downwards, is there not, on Earth?
No, you're just saying it's downwards. You're going to say there's an... See, this is a point, Tim. Listen clearly. You're going to assert there's an acceleration downwards towards Earth, and it's a thing called gravity, which you're stating is creating acceleration and motion on a three-dimensional object. Right? So how is it achieving that without it being some substance or some force that comes into contact with it to give it acceleration and motion? Is it an invisible lasso that throws it, and then there's a wee guy inside the centre of the earth winding it in to pull it towards it? I mean, what are you talking about?
No, actually, I asked you a question about, did we reach a certain velocity, or are we still accelerating?
What do you mean? It's uniform motion.
So there's no acceleration anymore, but you're talking about an acceleration.
At the initial point, it would be an acceleration. At the very first instance of motion, it would be considered an acceleration. If you keep your acceleration steady, you find uniform motion.
If
Constant
you
motion.
keep accelerating, you're going to keep gaining speed.
But it's not constant accelerating, it's gaining speed. See,
So
when the
it's at a
car takes
constant
off,
velocity,
see when a
and
car
that's what
accelerates to
keeps
60
going.
miles an hour, you feel the acceleration up until the 60 miles an hour. Once it reaches that and tapers off to the uniform speed, you no longer feel that.
So when did the Earth reach its uniform speed, do you think?
That's nothing to do with any of this, Tim. You're just obfuscating and running away into nonsense. Deal with what I've just offered.
well, unless you're calling your
Listen,
own
are
stuff
you here to
nonsense,
rebut?
then-
Are you here to rebut what I just stated? Or are you going to accept it as a fact of your reality?
What did you just say? You straw man me about
Everything
what
that
they
I've
say
just
about
presented,
mass-
everything that's just been
mass-
presented to you this evening, if you get anything to offer to it, if you get a rebuttal to it, if you get questions in regards to it, or are you just going
That's
to
what
keep
I've been
acting like a
asking. I've been
child?
asking questions, but then
You're
you
just asking nonsense.
dance around it and then ask me a question.
You're talking nonsense, Timmy. So, again, if you get anything in regards, do you deny any aspect of what's been offered to you this evening? And if so, please give me the specific aspect of what you deny.
Yeah, so I think that you're trying to say that there's an acceleration downwards in a certain sense. You don't believe in pole now or whatever. I don't. It's besides the point.
Hang
But the
on,
thing
hang
is
on,
now
hang
you're
on.
saying there's
Hang
a
on.
constant velocity.
Let's just go back a wee touch, right? So pull, Timmy. Are you asserting that there's a force known as pull that gives direction and motion to objects?
Pulling isn't personified. It's just a word. It's what we describe as like pushing. We
Okay.
wouldn't personify push either.
Okay, so you know that acceleration and motion in any object requires a pressure, something coming into contact with it and accelerating it in a particular direction. You understand that, don't you?
Yeah, and as the globe Earth model says, they say that mass attracts mass, and there's things like the Cavendish experiment.
No, Timmy, that's not something giving rise to acceleration and motion and direction to stuff. That's just wishful
Yeah,
thinking, son.
actually, it does. The balls actually get attracted towards each other. They pull in towards each
Timmy,
other.
you go and set up a demonstration of pull for me. You demonstrate
Well,
to
then
me a
that
force.
demonstration
You
right
demonstrate
behind
a
you, there's
force.
pulling close-
Demonstrate a
closing
force
behind you.
known as pull to me, Timmy.
What's that?
Demonstrate a force known as pull. Demonstrate it to me.
Well, there's a guy just behind you. He was pulling clothes off a clothesline.
No, he
Would you
wasn't.
say that he was pushing the
wasn't.
clothes off?
His push, every aspect of that was applied pressure. A push.
Okay, dude. I don't know where you're going with this argument. It surely doesn't prove flat Earth.
Timmy, you know fine well where I'm going with. That's why you're here, trolling like fuck, son. Because you have to.
So,
Do
so now,
magnets?
you think there's a pulling and pushing force that exists in the universe?
What's that?
You believe that there's a pulling and a pushing force that exists in the
No
universe?
such thing as a pulling force.
You believe in a pushing force.
Of course, motion's created by pressure, applied pressure, a push. Something has to push and accelerate something else in order to give it motion.
Do you have a name for that force?
Push, pressure, whatever you
Pushing
like.
pressure. Do you have an explanation for why things tend to be pushed towards the center of what we call the Earth?
Who says they're going towards the centre of the earth? You're just going to use circular
Yeah, but what about
reasoning
the
now.
surface? If I
You're going
change
to
it
make
from
the
center to
assumption.
surface.
You're going to make the
Do you
assumption.
have an
yes,
explanation for why your pushing force pushes things towards the surface of the Earth?
because it's the earth that's coming into contact with it. Just like in the car, when the car accelerates, the back of the seat comes into contact with your body, presses against you, and you're giving you the reference point of where your weight has shifted to because of the accelerating force coming into contact with you.
I'm not sure that that's how that works.
Well, how does it work then?
So do magnets push each other together? Would you say that?
Don't know what magnets fully are, and majority of magnets are man-made. And again,
What does
we're
that
not,
have to
talk,
do
we're
with
not talking about
interaction?
we're not talking about magnets though, because are you going to sit here and tell me that gravity is a magnet?
I'd never made that comparison.
Well, it's
I'm
got
just
nothing to do with
asking
it.
you
It's
a
irrelevant.
question
It's
to
irrelevant.
answer.
It's irrelevant. That's my answer.
Why is it irrelevant?
Because it's nothing to do with your claim.
What's my claim? I just asked you a question.
Gravity is a
What's my claim?
pulling force that accelerates things towards the centre of a sphere at 9.8 metres per second squared.
Okay, so I pulled up this fun facts for kids about the pushing and pulling force here, if you
Mm-hmm.
can see my screen. And they do actually go into magnetism. But it says any kind of force is really just a push or a pull. So
Right, now
I guess
demonstrate
you're
pull.
finding more science.
No,
aren't
you,
you?
no, you need to demonstrate pull as a force, because it's no.
So magnets coming together, you'd say they're pushing together, right?
I've not got a clue what the full physics of magnets are, and neither does anybody. And again, it's
What is
irrelevant.
the point of disregarding the word pull? I don't understand where you're going with
Because
this.
people are invoking motion and acceleration and trying to utilise the word pull to denote what that is. Pull is not a force.
But it says push
Del,
and
but
pull.
are they
and
invoking it, or are they
here.
just noticing that there's a phenomenon?
There's a phenomena, but they're going into fantasy land by imagining that there's a non-geometric entity at the centre of a mass that's somehow accelerating things towards that centre, which means that you're talking about acceleration and motion upon objects by pull, which doesn't exist in reality.
But this easy science for kids here, it says it pulls down everything.
Tommy,
in regards
see
to gravity
the wee diagram
towards
that you're
the
showing.
center of the
Tommy,
Earth.
see the wee diagram that you're showing. Slide it along. I'm going to put you on the so I can see this. So now slide it along. Show me the other wee guy. See where it says push. Now slide it or make it bigger so we can see the push bit. It'll pull. Right, now note, Tommy. See the handle on the door. See the wee being's hand. It goes round to the inside of the handle and applies a pressure, pushing the door towards the wee guy.
It's very semantical. It's really not even.
No,
an
no, no.
argument,
It's
truthfully.
important,
I
Tommy.
mean, if you wanna
It's
disregard-
important because childlike
Well,
minds
that's
like you
fine.
get confused about these things, and it's so difficult to get you to grasp it.
No, it's just in a colloquial sense. We say pull when something's coming towards something. and
That's
then
right.
push if it's going
That's
away.
right. But the
So
mechanics,
it's just-
the mechanics
just
of
word.
that, the mechanics of that's what we're talking about. So the mechanics to make that happen is apply pressure in any given direction. You can
But
keep
it's
trying to
just
wriggle.
describing the direct base vector.
You can keep trying to wriggle all you like. You're being found out here, son.
What that I don't.
But
go
you're
with the
actively
narrative
trying.
of
You're
pulling
trying really
out.
hard. You're trying really hard to no accept it.
No,
Although-
but I'm reading the Science for Kids website, and it's refuting what you're saying.
no, it's not. Where's it refuting it?
Pushing and pulls, force and motion.
Force and motion. The force required to create motion is applied pressure. You can see it in the image. You're just too daft to see it. Tommy, go to your door right
Yeah,
now.
so
So go to your door right now, Tommy. And is it a door that opens inwards or closes inwards towards you? Note that you put your hand over the handle and the pressure's now applied to the inside of the handle. That's push.
okay.
But don't the doors
It's
move
not that
on
I'm actually
hinges?
pulling the door. I'm not pulling the door towards me. It's actually that I'm applying pressure and pushing the door towards me. Okay. Cool. How does this? And what does this have to do with flat Earth?
What does this have to do with fucking nonsensical, idiotic mathematical concepts of pulling forces creating acceleration and motion in objects? That's what it's got to do with. You know fine well where I'm going with all this, and you don't like it. So you just be quiet now and give somebody else a shot, because you're useless.
So, Del, are you saying you don't enjoy a good pull?
A push? I used to,
No, it's a pull.
I used to love a push. Timmy's still an expert at pushing it off. You know? Anyway, Spurs, Chemo, or
That's
Stingray, if
fine,
you've got anything to offer in regards to what's been offered to you.
Yes. I mean, I saw the upward title. So this relates to why things fall and rise, or things fall, in my opinion, how I understand. We've been told there's an atmospheric pressure. And, I've been trying to find out, well, if there's a pressure, there's a force behind that, something is pushing like you describe it. So why things fall, in my opinion, is to do with temperature. And if something is hot or heated, it will rise, and if it's cold, it will fall.
How are you going to get the density layers though without an acceleration, without something pressing in the first place? You don't get it. Did you not see the aspect of the void? The only way to get the density layers, Spuskimo, is by an acceleration happening. So like the example of the car, did you see that part with the helium balloon within the car?
No, I've just joined up.
Well, you can go and watch it. If you put a helium balloon in the centre of a car and you accelerate the car, the helium balloon actually goes towards the front of the car. Okay, but if you put a plumb bob next to it, the plumb bob goes towards the back of the car. Now, if you vac out the inside of the car, seal the car and vac it out of any air within it, the helium balloon and the plumb line will both go towards the back of the car. Because they accelerate, listen.
You just said if you take the air out of the car, then you've lowered the temperature of that car. Because when you remove the air, you're removing this hot air, you're cooling the room down, which will have an effect on the warm air inside that balloon, which will try to expand, okay, and fill the space of that. So you've got hot air now in the balloon and cold air in the car. This is the difference that we're dealing with. Nothing to do with pressure, but everything to do with temperature.
So, Spurs, you took the temperature inside that balloon?
Listen, temperature's something else we can discuss. We're talking about the laws of motion right now and direction. Okay, so let's stick to that. Has anybody got anything to offer me in regards to a force denoted as pull, and can they demonstrate it to me? Yes or no?
Yeah, I'm actually just going to point out that you just debunked yourself, as the balloon needs the acceleration to make its movement. Now, when you say that the Earth has basically found a constant velocity, well, then there's no acceleration to explain the force that we do actually have.
What kind of word salad was that? What are you talking about, son?
If you remain at a constant velocity in a car with the balloon situation, would it still be moving backward like that?
What do you mean?
It's very simple, Bill.
But the car example is perpendicular to the Earth. You know, the Earth's the main reference frame. The car is a total different reference frame. It's subject to the force of the Earth beneath it, first and foremost.
Oh, wait, so there is a force downwards because you pointed downwards, right?
It's easy, Timmy. Stand in an elevator.
I saw that, Timmy.
So if you're in an elevator, Timmy, that's in a void, a vacuum, right? And you've got no point of reference for direction, and you have no weight, and you're encased within an elevator, and then I start to accelerate that elevator, and I keep it at a steady speed. It's going to come into contact with your feet, and it's going to continually push against you at a uniform speed. That's going to give you.
You just said I have no weight in a vacuum. Why would I have no weight in a vacuum?
In a void, you're not going to have any weight until something comes into. Give me an example. If you were suspended in the vacuum of space right
you're
now.
Wrong, right?
No, I don't. Listen.
Yeah, Del, I think by the fact that you point down, you subconsciously know that there's a force.
Listen, shut up, Q. I'm talking to Spastic right now, okay? I'm talking to Spastic right now. Timmy, you're in a vacuum, the void of space. Your claim, your model, right? You're in that void. What's going to give you weight and direction?
The gravitational force downwards if I'm near a big body like a planet?
No. The planet or the body would have to come into contact with you. It would have to press against you.
Satellites have to go a certain speed.
Shut up about satellites, Timmy. Right, I'm done with you because you're just fucking avoiding now. Right?
You debunked yourself.
That's enough. No, I didn't.
Video coming soon.
No,
the Bob Ross of Flat Earth.
No, I didn't debunk anything. You can just keep shouting that, try and claim a victory. You're like a wee pigeon shouting in the chessboard, knowing that you've taken a spanking. You utter retard.
Bye, Tim.
Bye, Tim. You useless
hey,
cunt.
Del, have you ever met Stingray? He's actually made a really good model of Flat Earth that I'd like you to look at.
Oh, whatever. Stingray, what have you got to say?
No, I'm just listening, taking it all in.
Show me your model.
I don't do this on command, Q. I was actually...
Well, you better learn because I'm
Q, you know the fucking Q. You can just leave now because I've had enough of you.
If there is a pressure, atmospheric pressure, can you explain to me how you would measure or calculate or sense or feel or recognize there is such a pressure? I mean, for me, this sounds like gravity. That Ball Earth is saying there's a force, you just can't feel it, but we can measure it. You ask them, how do you measure it? They just tell us, with certain devices. Now you're saying...
Eskimo, that's because they're invoking a force as a pull. A pull that gives acceleration to stuff. There is no such thing in the practical real world as pull giving acceleration to any object.
Except magnets, which you claim not to understand because they're magic and we don't understand them.
What
But
is
yes,
it?
besides that.
But what is a magnet? And it's in regards to the heliocentric claim. They're not claiming it's magnetism.
No, we're not. But magnets
Right.
do exactly the same thing, but just on a strong
No.
force scale. But are you saying that if there's inverse pressure next to a body, that I can't, due to the lack of pressure, move that body towards the lower pressure?
What
density?
do you mean? Give me a practical example of what you're talking about so I can understand your word salad.
Well, I used to, watch people driving vans take the piss out of bikers quite dangerously by driving next to them and then swerving out in their box van, which I shouldn't laugh, because the biker to actually, it pulls the biker out because of that lower pressure.
Listen, idea. When you create a lower pressure, the other pressure moves in to fill that fucking space. Just like how an aircraft flies. Are you daft? If you create a low pressure region, it's like a vacuum cleaner. Listen. It's the same as a vacuum cleaner. The vacuum cleaner creates a lower pressure region. The higher pressure region surrounding it rushes in. Now any particulates like dust and wee bits of stuff get pushed in to that space because of the inrushing higher pressure. It's the same principle.
Right, I get it. So if I hold scales next to a vacuum cleaner and I measure the pull force on the vacuum as opposed to the push force on the other side, which do you think would be higher?
There's no pulling force. Demonstrate a pulling force.
No, I've just said.
No, you've not.
If we have some scales.
You know what you can do, Stingray? You go and get for me and make a video and send it to me demonstrating a force known as pull. You just do that, because I don't want to listen to any of your waffle.
Yeah, what about when you breathe in? When you're breathing in, you're pulling.
No, you're not. No, you're not. You're using muscles to contract, to expand your lungs, and the higher pressure rushes in to fill that space.
No, it doesn't rush in, Dad. That's the point.
It does.
Yeah, but you can control. It doesn't flow into your mouth like water, does it? You can control when the air comes into your mouth.
Of course you can. But you have to create a bigger space, a bigger volume, in order for it to come into it.
No, it would just rush. You wouldn't be able to breathe. It would just rush into your mouth. Like if you went underwater, this would be real pressure pressing on your mouth or pressing on your throat. The atmosphere doesn't act like this.
And if I don't actively block the valves on my nose and at the back of my throat, the water's just going to fill me up.
Yeah.
Right.
But you don't feel a pressure on your face, do you?
Well, you do. Well, if you go deeper.
No, I mean in the atmosphere, you don't feel anything pressing on your body, on your face. That's not the reason why you open your mouth. It's not because something's pressing on your mouth. The reason you open your mouth is because obviously you're a living being and you need to breathe.
Right, but go into the mechanics of muscles and contraction and see how they work.
No, but I'm saying that you're saying if there's a pressure on my mouth that's causing me to open my mouth.
I never said that. Stop putting nonsense scenarios up there and asserting that I said that. That's not what I said at all.
This is the real world. You, me, now in the real world, have you saying there is a pressure against my mouth that is causing me to open my mouth. That's not the cause.
No, who said that? When did I say that, you moron?
No, I'm saying, well, where's the pressure then? Where is this pressure that you're describing?
Spurs,
what are you talking about?
There's a better example here that Dell just came up with himself, and that's a muscle. My bicep is attached to a bone. It contracts, and it pulls on that bone.
What, doesn't it?
Oh, right, it pushes from the other side, does it?
No. You just don't understand the mechanics. You need to understand the mechanics of the muscle and how the muscle contracts. What you should do is go away and educate yourself a wee bit before you come here spewing your absolute ignorance.
All right, so what's exerting that force on the bone then if it's not the tendon attached to the
muscle? The tendon's
muscle?
attached to the bone and the tendon's attached to the muscle.
Yeah,
the tendon and the bone are subject to what the muscle does. The muscle is what's responsible for creating the motion.
Oh, we push with that. It pushes the bone towards itself.
Yeah, the filaments within the muscle push against each other to cause contraction. Do you understand? Do you understand how the arm of a?
Yeah,
Do you understand?
contraction. Yeah, the force on the bone is exerted towards the source. So, yeah.
Yes, now you're getting it. That's how machines operate. Go and look at a digger. Go and look at any of these things and understand the principles of hydraulics and push, the force that creates motion and stuff. That's mechanics. That's how machines work.
But you can't explain magnets now.
What's magnets got to do with this?
Pulling force. You can pull.
You need to demonstrate.
Ferrous objects. So.
You need to demonstrate that that's what's going on. How do you know that's what's happening?
Well, it depends. Define force.
Force is something that will accelerate something and give it direction.
Okay. Now define pull and push in regards to the source, away and towards, right?
That's right.
Right, cool. So if I get a magnet and I can pull, and I can see a force applied to a ferrous material that moves towards the magnet, and I'm moving the magnet away, and it's moving still towards the magnet in that vector. Am I pushing it towards the magnet?
I don't know what's happening with magnetism. That's up to you to define and actually demonstrate what's actually going on with magnetism. Magnetism could be working something like what I said with the... Listen, so that could be working something similar to like a vacuum cleaner, where a lower air pressure is created and the higher pressure rushes in. So it could be warping some aspect that we don't quite know about yet, and the other matter pushes in towards that void. So it could be anything like that. But you're just wanting to assert things and act like you know it, but you don't. You're saying it from ignorance.
Dan, but you're also invoking pressure, which implies force, which implies what is the cause of this force? How can you have a pressure without a force and without a cause?
So we go back to the void again. We're in the void, the emptiness, the vacuous, infinite void, okay? We've now got we'll say a cube in there, right? And we've got gas and we've got liquid all in that cube. None of that stuff has any density. None of it has any direction. Now, bring along a point of force, something that presses against it and gives it direction and motion. Listen, let me finish, fucko. Now what's going to happen is that all the gas is going to compress, like the scenario of the car that you've seen. When the car accelerates forward, the air compresses towards the back of the car and pushes the helium balloon forwards. Now you've got a density layer denoted by the point of acceleration, which gives it the direction and sorts it out into the density layers.
No, again, you're giving an
Fuck off. Can I be arsewees? Trolling mongs. I'll give somebody else a shot now. I've only got so much patience for fucking willful idiots. Be wary of these clowns. No. What have I done here? Bear with me 2 seconds, people. Well, there we go. Sean Dipshit can fucking come in. Don't know, Sadie Archie. No idea. But it's just like anything, a blade of grass has to have something to resist it so that it can push itself upwards. It has to have something to resist. Any motion, acceleration, you need a pushing source, you need something to give resistance. So back to the void again, back to the empty space. You know, you've got an object that has no direction, has no weight. How am I going to get direction and weight? I need to bring something in that accelerates against it. Now I've got a point of reference for direction. Now that object has weight to it because it's got something resisting it.
Hey Dale, what's up?
Hello.
How are you?
How's it
I
going?
got a question. Is there any working calculator that I can find online that I can key in a height of an observer, a distance, and it will tell me how much stuff will disappear from the bottom up, because I enjoy doing observation.
Josie, shut up, you clown. Are you here to offer anything in regards to the topic that's been discussed here this evening?
All about gravity.
Have you got anything to
and
offer?
Forces and pulls and pushes.
Have you got anything to offer? Have you got a force known as
Okay,
pull? Have you
I
got?
was gonna ask for the calculator or any evidence for a flat Earth, but I guess you don't have that. So
Have you got any? Have
if
you
don't
got,
have anything to offer,
have you got any
regardless
proof?
of evidence of flat Earth, then I will go away.
Shut up, you fucking retard. Away you go, sniffer. Q, have you got anything better to offer? Spolsky Mo, you're no wanted.
Yeah, no, I got lots to offer.
Go for it.
Okay, well, see, I don't think that gravity is necessarily a pulling force
All right.
or a pushing force.
All right.
Okay, because I think it's like the bending of space-time.
Oh, so there's a fabric that's been warped.
Well, I don't know if it's a fabric, because I'm not really sure what space-time is.
Well, exactly.
But apparently
So what
we're
are you talking
all
about?
immersed in it.
Listen.
Okay.
Listen, Q. Don't come in here with mathematical concepts of non-entities and then
I didn't know anything about math.
try and assert it as if, because it's a concept. You've just said it. Warping and bending of space-time. Now, what is that? Is it a substance? Is it a fabric? Does it have dimensions to it? Can it be quantified? Have you got anything? Or is it just an abstract theory that you've heard and you think you're clever because you can recite
the
it?
thing is that we can't define it, but we can experience it.
What-
So we know what it causes
Mhm.
and what effects it has on matter and substance, right?
Right,
But we're not fully sure what it is.
Now you need to go away and demonstrate this warping and bending of space-time shenanigans. Have you got something practical?
Well, yeah. Could you do you have a lighter, Del?
I've got a lighter, aye.
Could you hold the lighter up in your hand?
Yes, there you go.
Could you hold it so the lighter's beneath your hand?
What do you mean, beneath my hand?
Like just turn your hand over. Turn your hand the other way around.
Like that?
180 degrees. Yeah. Now let go of the lighter. Yeah, gravity.
Shut up, you. Well, so what's gravity then? You knew you were going to say something pulled it.
It's the bending of space-time.
Oh, give me peace. You're just using
Around
words.
math.
You don't even know what you're saying, you clown. You're an idiot. Beat it.
I do know what I'm.
Fuck off.
What's this? Clash of the Trannies.
So what have you got to say now? Who's this?
Who's this?
Have you got anything
You
to offer?
fucking clown.
Have you got anything to
What's
offer? Have you got anything to offer?
Aye, what's this? Clash of the Trannies.
See you later, sniffer. I'm just getting the same idiots back in again. Jeez. There you go, people. More religious zealots that don't like physics, they don't like the real aspects of their actual reality. It's all a big threat to them. And they know exactly where this has gone. They know they're fucked. I know they're trying to derail the topic, go vegan. I've been doing this long enough. All the days offer the opportunity to show their zealotry. I shall await a force that causes acceleration and motion of any object, a force known as pull. Mark of Melbourne, you sent me a short clip, let me see. Let me see here. Right. Gravity or acceleration. This is. Let me see here. Mark of Melbourne. I'll just hit the subscribe just now. Let's see what you got to say.
Okay, this is just a quick hypothetical experiment here, just to show that gravity might not be what we think it is. Because what we have here are 4 vials, and if you can imagine the filled in section here being oil, okay, and
yeah, I know what Mark's going to, is it Mark? I know what Mark's going to point to here. This is what I'm talking about. So if you're accelerating that, okay, that's point of reference for down is now here, because the acceleration is going to be pushing it in that direction. If you had oil and you had water and you had whatever in there, that's going to, you know, the more dense materials and particles are going to shift to the point of contact that causes the acceleration. That's just what's going to happen. Same there. That's an example of the car. The car accelerates in that direction. All the air and whatever's inside compresses down to that point, to the point of acceleration, the push. Okay?
Have this empty section which is just air. Okay? So there's oil and there's air. Okay? Obviously oil being thicker than air. Okay? So we have a phenomenon of down on the Earth. Okay? That dictates the separation of the density and buoyancy of the 2 substances here, air and oil, on this particular example right here. So because of this phenomenon we call down, the oil will fill the bottom of this vial because it's denser than the air. Now, what about if we have the same vial up that's here, and we bring it up into the sky, hypothetically, and we accelerate this vial in its vertical position, we accelerate the vial down. Okay, what we'll observe, and if you could just imagine like a cocktail shaker, where we shake the cocktail bottle and the liquid inside goes to the bottom of the container because we're accelerating it down. That allows us to shake the materials inside. So if we accelerate this down, we'll find that the heavier substance, the oil, will separate due to density and buoyancy from the light.
But the density and buoyancy is created by the acceleration. You wouldn't have that unless there was a force accelerating it. This is why they've inverted it and saying that it's something pulling stuff into the earth. There's no such mechanics. There's no demonstration of a force as pull. Doesn't exist. This is why I'm pointing at this. So I'll watch the rest of that later, Mark, but obviously I know where you're going with it, so I'm not the only one that's been considering it. Well, cheers for that, Mark. Mark of Melbourne there. Let me see.
Down and stop you tore a pole and stop them to open a drawer.
This is the mentality. This is a Skyfly Bry. I'm going to show this. And he also shared a video to Mero, I think, who sent it to me, of push-pull. And it's a fucking a welding gun, a MIG welder, okay? And it's talking about whether you should have the puddle behind the welder or the puddle in front, right? And he's trying to come up with something about push-pull. The mechanics of the welder, every aspect, the two wheels within that grab onto the fucking copper rod and push it forward to come out the tube. It's got nothing to do with the motion. The only thing about the welding thing was, is the welding torch in front of the puddle or is it behind the puddle? Total and utter clown. Wait, you see this? This is a level of stupidity of these cunts. You open a drawer and you pull. The thumb or the hand goes inside the handle and applies a pressure on the back side of the handle, pushing it outwards from the drawer. Push. Pushing off the ground. Pushing off the ground. Push, push, push.
Play on a seesaw or a swing and ask for more. A push or a pull can make things move, can make things stop. 'Cause you can what you do. 'Cause you can bump into other things that can make a wheel.
Ah, the wheel pushes, makes it move. Next. Windmill pushes, makes it move. Next. This is how desperate they are to try and invoke pull as a force. Just absolute fucking stupidity. Clowns and retards of the highest order. Wow. Thanks for the display of your utter stupidity. It's absolutely wonderful. Hang on, I've got somebody who is wanting a chat here, so let me just set this up quick. Right, I just need to nip to the toilet, people, so you just need to bear with me for 2 seconds here. So you remember thinking about this ages ago. This is why, you know, like when I was saying about water, you know, you've got a valley here where there's less mass and you've got water coming off it. It's the same principle as a car moving and you've got water on it and it comes off the windscreen, right? Because you've got that accelerating force, right? And that's why water will come sideways down the sides of fucking mountains into the lower region of less mass. Because more mass, more gravity, mass attracts stuff. Alright, so why is the water running off the mountain range again? What am I doing here? Right, that link's been sent. Frank. Sent. So, back to all this. This is the reason why this is more merit than all the other nonsense drivel. I really hope that it's sinking in for people and you can really grasp this. Hello? Hello?
Oh, sorry, my volume was down. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, mate.
Ah, cool. How you doing?
No bad, no bad.
Yeah. Since we were talking last time, I was having a thought experiment, you know, regarding the something needing another object to become in motion.
Yep.
Oh, hold on. I got the wrong headphones on. That's why I can't hear you. Right. So I was thinking then, if you, because you know, just like the person who was on, they said, you know, drop the lighter. Oh, that's gravity. I was thinking if the Earth or the floor is moving up, then it basically means that when you release the lighter, it technically stops moving.
Everything else is coming into contact with it.
Yeah, so you release the lighter, and then it's not moving because you know there's nothing else in contact with it, and then the floor moves up, and then it hits the lighter. That's the instant thought I had, and I couldn't really come up with anything else.
No. Well, as I say, there may be aspects unbeknownst to me, you know, that can give things direction and motion, but it would have to be something that applies some sort of pressure. So it has to be something that's coming into contact with some other, you know, object or mass, and giving it that acceleration. So, I mean, again, it's just mechanics, it's just physics. There's no way to break it.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, I'm no making any definite assertions. I'm just showing where this points towards, and people can make up their own mind about it. You know, which is why I'm open. If you can demonstrate, you know, a force known as pull, and demonstrate that to me, then I'll give it merit. But until then, it's just it belongs in the realms of unicorns and, you know, other fantasy.
Yep.
Right, Al.
All right, mate.
All right. Who's the other caller? Sorry, Matt, I'm not being like this. Sorry.
How you doing, Frank?
All right, Al. Who's the other caller? Sorry, I don't want to be ignorant.
Oh, no worries.
Now, just a quick one, Al. Does not sound like Russian vids. Just a quick one before I go. It's all very simplistic to me. It doesn't take a lot of thinking about. If you tell me something is, right, you need to show me it is. Right? If you can't show me it is and you start quoting numbers and being like Penn and Teller and invoke magic and say the dove really did disappear, or I really need a card that you were going to pick this morning.
Yeah.
That's not proof.
No.
Keep it simple. Those drawings that you're doing, that illustrates, that's observation.
Yeah.
That's it. This is what things do. This is what things do when you turn them that way. This is what things when you turn them the other way. Now, you need to agree with that. It's in front of your face. You agree with that.
Yeah.
Or you shit yourself and go and get the fucking match groups out.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Agreeing with it doesn't mean to say you know what it is.
No.
I haven't got a clue. I still haven't got a clue. You know, I never pretend. I couldn't sit with half of these dickheads who quote, you know, theory and trigonometry and whatever. But I know what it is if I see it. And then they invoke like atoms and stuff like that. Can you see cancer and all that shit? We're not on about that. We're on about me standing on a beach, not thinking for one fucking second that a boat disappears over a fucking line, a straight line, right? And when I zoom in, it doesn't bring it nearer to me. I'm not that fucking stupid. It doesn't bring it anywhere nearer to me. The lens allows me to see further. And when it does so, it allows me to see there's no fucking curve there. That's it. Simple.
That's it. That's it. What about what I was offering this evening? Did you understand any of it?
This stuff is to me is the best. You know, like I've always said, when Gav used to come on about the Scottish philosophy guys and stuff like that, and the trivium stuff, all that stuff. I'm not into banning people and ruling with an iron rod and whatever.
Yeah.
But stuff like this, you could have a closed hangout, and it's not fucking dead poets.
Yeah.
It just does away with, like, there's a fella there now, he's sitting there watching this now, and he'll probably go away and review it and do fuck all again. He's been here for the last 3 hangouts, Sean Hawkins, and what he isn't going to do to disprove everything you say, it's untold. But he's still there, he's still chatting shit in the chat, and still hasn't got the balls to come on.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't got nothing to say. I'm just here, like, as one of the people who enjoy coming to your channel, enjoy listening to what you've got to offer, and I won't listen to shite. Now, the reason Sean Hawkins won't come on is because that's all he's got is shite. It's belief and shite. That's it.
Yeah.
If he had anything else, he'd be fucking throwing you all around the shed now.
Yeah,
that's it. Simple.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, just a couple of quick ones. Aye, Bill, I've still got light here. Still plenty of daylight. And Gem Panda in the chat, Steve HV, what does weight mean? What gives something weight, Gem Panda? What gives something weight is something coming into contact with it and accelerating against it. If you don't have that, you don't have weight, son. Okay? So.
One of the funniest things to come from tonight, Al, is that we went from gravity and then we saw magnetism. There's still no push. There's a pose and attract.
Yeah.
There's still no push or pull. It's a pose and attract. But then they've now got magnety. That's the new one.
Aye, magnety.
On this hangout alone, they'll all be running around shouting magnety.
Aye, well, that's what they'll say. It's like a magnet, but nobody really knows the physicality of what's actually going on. As far as I'm aware, it's unresolved. Nobody really knows, and it's irrelevant. The majority of magnets are man-made things anyway. So, it's totally by the by. We're talking about objects, we're talking about acceleration and motion, and they can't offer anything up. Their claim is that there's an accelerating force that pulls stuff, and there's no such a thing. You can't accelerate and get in motion with pull. It's not a thing,
No, so. Again, Del, keeping it simple. You watch things like this, Top Gear and that, and they're in a car and they'll say, and it's got a force of 2G, right? Yeah. That's going at 170 mile an hour. What are we supposed to be moving at? What's the Earth fucking moving at? This way, that way, and spinning. Now, add all those forces together. Your face would look like it was like being slapped by fucking a million mice, you know what I mean? With the G-forces.
Well, that's right.
I can feel it. So for me, unless you can show me what you think is happening, right, show me it. Because I can't see it. I can't feel it. I'm sorry, but if I get in the car, I can show you what the forces of nearly 2G pulling down on the car because of light.
Well, see the G-force machine. That has to continually accelerate to keep the perpendicular. If it wasn't, continually accelerating, the guys would shift to the side. You would start to be thrown out. But as that it's constantly accelerating, so it pushes them straight back into the chair.
But we know what it does. That's why we've got fun fairs. That's why we've got the waltzes. That's why we've got the fucking spin you out to the wall thing.
That's it.
And that's why bikes can go round in a circle.
Yeah.
That's acceleration versus fucking whatever it is. But it's not gravity.
No.
Unless you fucking prove to me it is. It could be fucking Maltesers. I don't know.
Well, when human beings when human beings invoke these things, I've always got to ask that human being to reference some practicality to denote what they're talking about. And this is my whole point to them. You don't get away with just invoking pulling forces, creating acceleration upon objects without some practicality. And you can't just use circular reasoning based on presuppositions and assumptions and say, it's when you drop something. That's not a proof. Everything that I've just talked about this evening can be displayed in a practical fashion. Every single bit of it. But they can't.
Exactly. It's like fixing a car. That would be reborn an engine.
Yep.
You do it to the, like 1/16 or whatever.
Yep.
Now, I know what that's going to do to improve the fucking performance. So
Yep.
do you, because
Yep.
that's, you know how to do it.
Yep.
But and it's physically there. You can show it. You can show the car performed this way before we took the 16th off here. Every fucking cylinder, and it performs this way now better because this is what we did.
That's it.
Now, for me, the analogy is the car performs shit, but it would perform better if we done some geometry and we thought it would, and we just imagined it would run better.
Uh-huh.
Do you know what I mean? They're not showing any observable proof of what they're thinking.
No, they'll know, mate, because it's just conceptual. It's imaginary.
It's great, you know. My car's like a fucking a DeLorean when it runs right. But I haven't got a car and I haven't got a DeLorean, so there you go. It's exactly that.
Exactly, mate. Exactly. So, well, hopefully, you know, people that need to hear it understood what was getting said here this evening, and then put it to use, you know, because it should clear a lot of stuff up for people. And for me, it points in the direction of what could possibly be going on here and what we're actually a part of in regards to the bigger picture. You know, because listening to all this nonsensical drivel that they offer is just not going to get you anywhere. You're not going to further your understanding based on concepts and fucking imagination land, you know? So
I'm going to go off now, Del, but thanks. But what you just said there is applicable to every single, you know, sphere of what we're dealing in here. Is that you hope it's added to the understanding.
Yeah.
You don't know.
So
I don't know. You don't know.
Yeah.
And that's fucking good enough for me, mate. We can sit here and we can talk about it like adults, and that's good enough for me. So thanks anyway, and keep it up, Dylan. Fucking get that Sean Hawkins in shit house, still sitting there doing fuck all. All right.
No worries, mate. Cheers.
Again, mate.
Cheers.
Ta-ra.
Well, let's see. All right.
Yeah. I got my license.
Oh, good, mate.
My
Good.
bike license. Yeah.
Good.
It was hard, but I got it, so
Excellent.
I can ride tomorrow.
Good stuff, my man. Excellent. Good times then, huh?
Oh yeah. It's real nice weather. It's not too hot, not too cold. It's perfect. Yeah.
Excellent, mate. Excellent. Good. Have fun, my man. Enjoy the freedom.
Yeah. Yeah, I will. Going from a 50cc to a 500, so that's quite enough shift, you know.
You need to make sure you've got good grip over the handlebars, because the force of the air resisting is going to throw you back. You know, it's going to want to push you off the back of the bike.
Yeah. I had that in when I was going 140 about kilometers during the lessons. And I was afraid to release my fingers from the grip with the clutches, because I would just fly off.
That's that, mate. That's that.
Yeah. But after a while you get used to it, to the wind, and it didn't have any fairings on. So yeah. Yeah.
Good, man. Good.
Yeah.
Nice one, mate. Cheers for coming on.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right, bud.
By the way, you mentioned that you had sunlight still?
Yeah.
Well, I barely do. Can still see a little bit, but there's a lot more light I can see over there.
Yeah.
I'm in Holland, so.
Yeah. Bill's in Florida, and Andrew's in the west coast of New Zealand, and you know, we're all getting light. He's getting direct, you know, view of the sun. I get direct view of the sun at the same time as Andrew on the west coast of New Zealand as well. So, you know, loads of anomalies there.
Yeah, I've looked on Google Maps. It's impossible.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah.
Based on their notions of what the sun is, and it being a singular object and all that kind of stuff. So it's preposterous. You know?
Yeah, exactly. There could be more. I don't know.
Exactly. We just don't know what's going on with that. You know. So.
Yeah.
Excellent, mate. Well, cheers again, bud, for coming on.
All right. Cheers.
Take it easy, mate.
Yeah.
Right, chat box. What's happening in here? Nah, Gleam, no this evening now. I'm coming to the end, to be honest with you. Infestation of zealots, no wonder. I'm just going to get loads of dancing for them, loads of name calling. You know, not one of them are going to offer anything practical to refute what's been stated here and offered up this evening. Absolutely none of them. And if today I'm going to enjoy ripping it apart. Nice one, West Coast. Cheers. Aye, Saturday, Gleam. You'll be welcome to come on Saturday. I'll be opening up. Oops, sorry, I jumped there. Nah, I'm not going to do any of that but me. I'm just going to continue walking my walk and exactly, Celtic 67. Confessions of a lot. You need to wait Saturday now for that, my man. I'll get the IQ of a root vegetable. That's smashing. That's a refutation of the facts, isn't it? Rumpus, you clown. Getting in South Australia right now as well, Kieran. Nice one. Poor grandchild. Feel sorry for it. The only useful thing you are is you can do fucking Zippy impressions. So I would go and buy yourself a Zippy costume. So that's probably the only fucking decent thing you've got to offer it. Nice one, Andrew, Execrate 200, been up for hours. Explain gravity, me. You can explain unicorn fairy dust all you like, son. What you need to do is practically demonstrate a pulling force that causes acceleration or motion of an object. Now, run along, knock yourself out, film it so we can all laugh at you. Anyway, people, thank you very much, people, for being here. Everybody in the chat, you know, people watching. Mods is always much appreciated. I'll be back at this, no doubt, but I'm going to continually, and people should be continually thinking for themselves as well. It's all one just listening to what's being offered here, but you need to work through it and understand it so that you realise it for yourself, or it's useless to you. Nice one, Bill. Cheers for that, mate. I'll have a wee look at that at some point. Aye, so thanks again, everybody. I'll see you on Saturday. You know, if anybody was wanting to come in and discuss any aspect of this or whatever other topic or aspect you want to speak about, you just need to send me an email from Saturday. You're probably better waiting until Saturday because I'll end up with a pile and I might not get to them. So, anyway, thank you very much, people. See you soon. Bye-bye.